Thank you for watching us. We're Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden, and we're here with the HTV crew at Ed White Elementary School in West Houston, and our guest today is Kay York. Kay, we've been talking about mental health issues. We've been talking about special ed in the schools. We've talked about the ADA. Now, the ADA is 25 years old this year. It's a landmark piece of legislation. It guaranteed equal opportunity and civil rights for, at the time, 43 million people with disabilities, many, many more now. It covered every person with a disability, including people with physical impairments, communications disabilities, sensory impairments, and mental illness. Many people disregarded the latter and didn't understand the kind of accommodations that need or could be made for people with mental illness. What are some of those accommodations?
Well, let me back up for 1 second and say that I am pleased to report that the local Mental Health Association of Greater Houston took on a challenge 2 legislative sessions ago to introduce bills that the legislature did approve about educating teachers and doing a better, teaching teachers more about how to observe, identify, and how to refer kids with mental health.
So that helps resolve the problem that you raised about those kids that never get diagnosed.
Exactly,
Well,
exactly.
That's good.
And it's just like, I know probably most of your viewers have already heard that the incidence of autism seems to be greater right now. Well, is it really greater, or is it just because we're doing a better job of identifying those kids?
But once the kids get identified, what kind of accommodations can be made to ensure that they get a good education? Or in the, the community, what kind of accommodations can employers make to ensure that people with mental impairments and mental illness have the opportunity to do work like everybody else?
Well, that's 2 shows. You want kids, or do you want employers?
I want them both, and I want you to summarize both of them.
Okay. All right. Well, as far as kids are concerned, 0 to 3. If anybody has a child that they suspect has a disability, go to their local school district's Department of Special Education and ask for a referral, or you might have one from your pediatrician or doctor, and take it to the school district. They should be able to schedule testing. If your child is older than 3, then you go to the home school that you're zoned to and ask for a referral packet. If your child is not already in school, that'll be 1 set of papers, and then if your child is already enrolled in school, they will start going through this response to intervention. We want to make sure that we've provided some interventions before we actually start testing, because sometimes they'll respond to intervention.
And if you think you're not getting served appropriately, you can always go and get counseling from the Mental Health Association. They'll advocate
Absolutely.
for you, or Disability Rights Texas.
Yes, yes, and I've sent quite a few people to Disability Rights Texas.
Okay, so we're going to identify these kids,
Yes.
and then they get in the schools.
Yes.
What kind of accommodations do we make for them there? Do we give them more time to take tests? What are the issues?
Absolutely. Small group testing is almost a must for kids, especially with ADHD, autism, anything that they're highly distractible and don't do as well in a large group testing environment. In addition, in the general ed classrooms, we may present the curriculum that's the same as the 4th graders get, but we may present it in a slightly different way. In other words, there might be more, the fonts might be larger if it's someone with a visual impairment. Instead of 4 multiple choice answers, we might only give 3 because the child is a little bit more easily confused, and we just want to know that they know the answer.
So the point is, the accommodations you make for those kids are individualized, and that's
Absolutely.
why you have this individualized plan. Now, when it goes to the employers, we have always said and advocated that the best person to advise on what accommodations need to be made is the person themselves.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So people who have mental health issues need to learn to be self-advocates.
I try to teach my students from the get-go. Number 1, what does the word advocacy mean? Number 2, by the time you get to middle school, if you can't advocate for yourself, nobody's going to read your mind.
What about your personal experience? Have you understood or really seen the power of that self-advocacy?
Oh, sure. Well, number 1, the person becomes a totally different person. when they feel like they are part of the process, when they feel like they're not the only one in the world, when they feel like especially for frequent breaks. Some of these medications, either A, you just get restless with it, or B, you get sleepy with it. C, you might have to go to the bathroom more often. D, people with severe ADHD just need to get up and move around. Well, if you have a desk job and you're leaving every 20 minutes, some employers might not take kindly to that. However, if that's what you need, then you deserve to have that accommodation. But having said that, the employer, and this is the other side of the coin, the employer also has to educate the rest of the employees about why that person, you know, it's not that you're giving them special privileges, it's just that they have a disability and we're accommodating for that.
Okay, another point that I want to make is that, and I believe you share this view with me, is that the range of disabilities is so great that anything we say here in general has to be personalized according to the individual. So when we talk about mental health, the range extends from kids with learning disabilities, ADHD, and on the extreme of that spectrum, probably autism, all the way across to people with other kinds of mental illnesses, people who have manic depression, for example, people who have schizophrenia. It's all a part of the community of people with mental impairments, but also the community of people with disabilities.
Right. And the one math factor I would add to that when I've given presentations in the past, it's not just the person with the disability. I say if you want to be conservative, use a multiplier of 3. If you don't want to be conservative, 5. Usually a person with a disability impacts not only him or herself, but at least 3 other people, whether it's family, friends, or employers. So we're not just talking about 43 million or whatever the current number is. We're really talking about a huge segment of society.
And people with mental illness are sometimes forgotten because they have hidden disabilities. And Kay, do you have any idea what proportion of the population of people who have mental illness or other mental health issues simply don't reveal that?
I don't know what the statistics are for that, but I can tell you that it's only been in probably the last 15 or 20 years that celebrities have been more forthcoming. As you may recall, I used to work with a professional golfer by the name of Bert Yancey, and he was one of the first people who revealed as a professional that he did have bipolar disorder. And people like Bert and other celebrities coming forward makes it easier for people with a mental illness to say, oh, well, I have an illness just like so-and-so. And and even like with and I hate to bring this up because it's very sad for me, but like the death of Robin Williams, even though that's a very sad thing, that's one more way to educate people about major depression and what can happen.
So, Kay, if somebody's watching this program and needs help, wants some assistance, who would you recommend they call?
Well, if they're in crisis, they either need to call 911 or just go straight to the hospital if they're really in crisis, if it's life-threatening.
And if not?
If not, then they can call organizations like the Mental Health Association, 713-523-8963. There's many support groups. I don't have the phone numbers off the top of my head for NAMI, which is the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, and that's primarily family members and also consumers. And we don't use the word patients anymore, they're consumers. And then also DBSA, and then there's other specialty groups like the Autism Society.
Okay. I really appreciate you being our guest today.
It's great.
It's wonderful to harken back on 24 years since we met and 25 years since the ADA was passed. We've made a lot of progress, Kay. We have a long way to go.
Yes, got to stick around a little bit longer.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you all for watching. This has been Focus on Abilities. I want to thank HTV for dispatching the crew out here to Ed White Elementary today, being on location, and we hope that you've appreciated today's program. The question I asked at the beginning of the program was, are people with mental health issues included in the ADA? And darn right. Hope you've enjoyed the program. Please tune in next time for more Focus on Abilities.
Focus on Abilities is brought to you by Tier Memorial Hermann, redefining rehabilitation, removing barriers, re-enabling independence. And the ILRU Southwest ADA Center, promoting compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act.